The National Assembly's June extraordinary session will come to an end on Tuesday without having processed a number of bills related to the livelihoods of the Korean people. As our Kim Yeon-ji reports, politics once again got in the way.
The National Assembly had little success in processing bills aimed at improving labor conditions and toughening regulations on unfair business practices during the June session. Due to partisan wrangling, the Labor Committee failed to approve an amendment to the Labor Standards Act that cuts the maximum number of working hours and strengthens layoff requirements. And it was more of the same when it came to legislation on economic democratization. A bill that would regulate the practice of cross-shareholding among conglomerate affiliates, and another that would expand the assessment for eligibility for major shareholders, will have to be transferred to the September session. Another bill stuck at the Judiciary Committee is the so-called anti-Namyang dairy law, which is designed to penalize large companies that abuse their power on their franchisees, many of which are convenience stores. Some lawmakers are calling on their fellow lawmakers to take action on these bills.
Namyang Dairy's verbal abuse of its sales agents and forcing of sales was made known in January and has since aroused public anger. But saying that it needs to conduct a field investigation, the Fair Trade Commission is delaying legislation of the anti-Namyang dairy law. At this rate, we cannot effectively help the less powerful in business relations.
The June session comes to an end Tuesday, but some lawmakers say another extraordinary session should be held in July so they can go ahead with a parliamentary probe into a scandal involving the National Intelligence Service. Late last month, the rival parties agreed to investigate allegations that the NIS interfered in last year's presidential election. The decision is seen as one of the few achievements from the June session, but if there is no session in July, the probe may have to wait. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.